Have you ever felt that? No matter how hard you try, something pulls you back, as if an invisible force drains your energy, clouds your thoughts, or pushes you into repetitive cycles of pain and frustration. There are moments when life feels like a labyrinth, and every exit you find leads you back to the starting point. What if this force wasn't just bad luck or personal failure, but the subtle influence of something feeding on your own light? It is vital to learn how to protect yourself from The word obsessor carries a weight, a connotation often associated only with folklore or rigid religious concepts. But here, we will expand that understanding. An obsessor may not be an external entity with horns and pitchforks, but a dense energy, a psychic pattern, an unintegrated shadow manifesting in multiple forms, both within and outside you. And this energy, when not recognized and transmuted, can become a parasite, sapping your vitality and derailing your spiritual journey. Since time immemorial, diverse cultures have recognized the existence of forces operating behind the scenes of reality, influencing human behavior. The ancient Greeks spoke of daimons, intermediary beings between gods and mortals, capable of inspiring or misleading. In Norse folklore, there were the Diggory entities that could steal vital energy, and in Eastern spiritual traditions, the concept of negative karma or dense energies points to the same truth. What is not healed within us, what is not released, can manifest as a burden, an invisible resistance. Jungian psychology introduces us to the concept of the shadow. The shadow is not necessarily evil. It is simply the part of ourselves we repress, deny, or ignore. These are our fears, our weaknesses, our unhealed traumas, our unacceptable desires. When we don't face our shadow, it doesn't disappear. It projects itself onto the external world, onto others, into the situations that torment us. In this sense, an unintegrated part of ourselves can become our greatest obsession. What pulls us down is often an echo of something residing in our own unconscious. So, how can we identify and, more importantly, protect ourselves from obsessors, whether internal or external? How can we shield our energy and reclaim control of our own narrative? The key lies not in fighting, resisting, or fearing, but in awareness, in elevating your own vibrational frequency, and in integrating the forgotten parts of yourself. The first step in this journey of protection begins with an uncomfortable truth. The obsessor always finds a crack in us. It doesn't enter through the front door unless there's an open window. That crack is often an unprocessed emotion, an open wound, a limiting belief, or a negative thought pattern that makes us vulnerable. Imagine the story of an ancient monk seeking enlightenment in his cell. He fasted, meditated, and prayed tirelessly. Yet, no matter how hard he tried, he felt a dark, whispering presence tormenting him, stealing his peace. He tried to expel it with rituals, with stronger prayers, but the presence persisted. One day, desperate, he consulted an older master. The master didn't speak of external demons, but asked, "My son, what is the deepest fear you hide in your heart?" The monk confessed his dread of not being worthy of enlightenment, of being a failure. The master smiled. "There's the crack. That shadow tormenting you isn't from outside. It's the echo of your own fear of not being enough. When you embrace and transmute that fear, the shadow will dissolve, for it will have nowhere left to anchor." The monk realized that true protection wasn't about fighting the external but healing the internal. Emotional fragility was the invitation for density. In analytical psychology, the anima and animus represent the unconscious feminine aspects in men and masculine aspects in women, respectively. When these aspects are not integrated, they can manifest dysfunctionally, as projections, or even by attracting people who represent the unhealed side of our psyche. An obsessor can be the personification of a part of our soul crying out for attention, for healing. It's like a fragment of our psyche that feels rejected and, therefore, torments us to be seen. What is the emotion you most avoid feeling? What makes you feel most vulnerable or unworthy? What if that were the entry point for energies feeding on your pain? The truth is that the first line of defense against any obsession is deep. It's about looking at your own wounds, your limiting beliefs, your deepest fears. It's about healing the crack instead of just trying to ward off what enters through it. Energetic protection begins with inner healing. The second step leads us to a fundamental truth. The energy you radiate is your greatest shield or your greatest vulnerability. Everything is vibration. Our thoughts, emotions, and intentions generate an energetic frequency that attracts experiences and beings of similar frequencies. If we are in a constant state of fear, anger, envy, or we are issuing an invitation for low vibrational energies to connect with us. Think of the metaphor of a radio. If you tune into a station of bad news and sad songs, that's what you'll hear. It's no use complaining about the quality of the programming if you stay on the same frequency. To hear something different, you need to change the station. Similarly, to protect yourself from obsessors, you need to elevate your own frequency. Vibrational elevation is not a distant mystical concept. It's a daily practice of awareness and choice. In physics, resonance is the phenomenon where a system is driven to oscillate with greater amplitude at certain frequencies. In the energetic field, it works similarly. Your aura, your energy field, resonates with the frequencies you emit. If you vibrate in fear, you attract more reasons to fear. If you vibrate in gratitude and love, you attract more experiences to be grateful for and to love. Obsessive entities, whether psychic or spiritual, are drawn to frequencies compatible with theirs. They feed on despair, anguish, repetitive thoughts of scarcity, and failure. There was a young man, Carlos, who was going through a phase of extreme pessimism. He constantly complained about everything: lack of money, relationship problems, health issues. The more he complained, the more bad things seemed to happen. He felt a constant weight, a mental fog that prevented him from seeing solutions. One day a mentor advised him to try a simple exercise. For 1 week, he could only talk about things he was grateful for. At first, it was difficult, but as he forced his mind to seek the positive, even in small things, something began to change. The fog in his mind started to clear, and situations that once seemed insurmountable began to resolve. The weight he felt began to fade. He realized that the true obsessor was his own negative mindset, and gratitude was his greatest shield, the tool to elevate his vibration and protect himself from negative influences. What is the predominant emotion in your life right now? Do you often find yourself in spirals of negative thoughts? What if the most radical change you can make to protect yourself is not external, but internal, in the way you choose to vibrate? The truth is that mental and emotional vigilance is an act of self. It's an invisible but impenetrable shield. The third step reminds us that self-knowledge is your greatest weapon. Many seek protection in amulets, external rituals, or spiritual authority figures. While these elements may have symbolic value, the most effective protection lies in your own inner strength, in your ability to discern what is yours and what is not. Obsessors, whether internal or external, thrive on ignorance and confusion. Think of the legend of the Minotaur in the Labyrinth. Theseus didn't defeat the Minotaur solely through physical strength, but through his intelligence and, crucially, the thread of Ariadne that helped him find his way back. The labyrinth is your mind, and the Minotaur can be the shadow, the fear, the doubt that imprisons you. The thread of Ariadne is self-knowledge, clarity about who you are, your values, your boundaries, and your purpose. Without this thread, you get lost in projections and illusions, becoming easy. In Jung's analytical psychology, the process of individuation is the journey of becoming a whole being, integrating the various parts of the psyche, including the shadow. This involves a deep inner dive, a confrontation with your own internal demons. By recognizing and accepting the unloved parts of yourself, you disarm them, removing the power they might have to manipulate you or attract negative external influences. There was a woman who lived in a cycle of abusive relationships. She always found herself drawn to controlling partners who gradually undermined her confidence. She sought help in therapies and cleansing rituals, but the pattern persisted. One day, during a deep therapy process, she realized that, in her childhood, she had internalized the belief that she wasn't worthy of love unless she submitted. That belief was her crack, her own internal obsessor, that led her to attract partners who reinforced that dynamic. By recognizing and healing that wound, rebuilding her self-image and self-love, toxic relationships simply stopped appearing in her life. Her spiritual autonomy and energetic protection came from her own inner discernment. Do you truly know yourself? What are the patterns that repeat in your life and cause you suffering? What if the answer to protecting yourself from obsessors lies in looking inward, in becoming the master of your own labyrinth? The truth is that no ritual or amulet will be more powerful than a clear consciousness and a strong spirit. The light of self-knowledge dispels the densest shadows. The fourth step invites us to consider the power of pure intention and energetic vigilance. Obsessors, whether external or internal manifestations of your own shadow, cannot thrive where there is light, clarity, and a well-defined purpose. Intention is like a compass that aligns your energy. Vigilance is the sentinel that prevents the entry of unwanted influences. Think of the metaphor of a garden. If you want to cultivate vibrant, healthy flowers, It's not enough to just plant them. You need to remove the weeds, protect the seedlings from pests, and nourish them with water and light. Your mind and aura are that garden. If you allow negative thoughts, fears, and resentments to grow unchecked, they become the weeds that choke your light and attract dense energies. Energetic vigilance is the constant care of the gardener. In physics, coherence describes the organization and alignment of waves. The more coherent a wave, the more powerful and directed it is. Your intention, when pure and focused, creates a coherent energy wave that can repel dissonant influences. A scattered thought, a confused emotion, is like a weak wave that dissolves easily, but a clear intention, sustained by the right emotion, is a laser beam of power. There was a student, Gabriel, who constantly felt unmotivated and distracted, struggling to focus on his studies. He felt a force of procrastination dragging him down, and sleepless nights were frequent. One day, he decided to apply a radical method. Upon waking, he set a clear intention to have a productive day and focus on his studies, visualizing success. Throughout the day, whenever he noticed his mind wandering to negative thoughts or distractions, he consciously reset his intention, returning to focus. At first it was a challenge, but over time, he noticed that the force of procrastination seemed to diminish. His mind became clearer, and he started achieving impressive academic results. He realized that the obsessor was his own lack of energetic direction, and that intention and vigilance were his most powerful tools of protection, warding off procrastination and discouragement. What is your deepest intention for your life right now? And how vigilant are you in maintaining that intention, not allowing distractions or negative thoughts to derail it? The truth is that the strength of your will is a force field. Keep it clean, clear, and focused, and few things will be able to penetrate it. The fifth step teaches us about the importance of self-compassion and forgiveness as tools for As we've seen, the crack often comes from unhealed wounds within us. Guilt, regret, shame, and self-criticism are like magnets for low vibrational energies. By forgiving yourself and others, you're not justifying mistakes, but releasing the weight that ties you to the past and makes you vulnerable. Think of the story of the executioner and the prisoner. If the prisoner hates the executioner and spends their life feeding that hatred, they remain imprisoned, even if the physical chains have been removed. Hatred is their own prison. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is the act of cutting those emotional chains, freeing yourself to move forward. It doesn't mean the executioner deserves forgiveness, but that the prisoner deserves freedom. In psychoanalysis, the repression of emotions and traumas can lead to neuroses and physical symptoms. What is not expressed manifests. Unprocessed guilt, for example, can become a critical and incessant inner voice, a true psychological obsessor that sabotages your self-esteem and actions. Forgiveness, in this context, is an act of psychic liberation, clearing the emotional debris that obscures your light. There was a man who harbored deep resentment toward his father, who had abandoned him in childhood. That resentment was like a dark cloud that followed him, affecting his relationships and career. He constantly felt haunted by bad luck. A therapist challenged him to write a letter to his father, expressing all his pain and anger, but, in the end, to forgive him, resisted but did it. He felt an immense wave of emotion and, in the end, a sense of relief he had never experienced. The dark cloud began to dissipate. He realized that the obsessor was not his father but the resentment, the lack of forgiveness that kept him tied to a painful past. Self-compassion and forgiveness were his greatest allies in releasing the internal executioner and protecting himself from past influences. Are you carrying the weight of some guilt or resentment in your life? What if the liberation you so desperately seek lies in an act of forgiveness for yourself or someone who hurt you? The truth is that forgiveness is not a favor to the other, but a gift of freedom to yourself. It raises your frequency and closes the doors to energies that feed on your pain. The sixth step leads us to the power of service and gratitude as forms of active protection. When you turn beyond yourself to the well-being of others, and when you cultivate a grateful heart for what you already have, you automatically raise your vibration and become less accessible to low-frequency influences. The energy of unconditional love and generosity is the highest frequency in existence, and it is impenetrable to density. Think of the figure of the Bodhisattva in Buddhism, who postpones their own enlightenment to serve all beings. This selfless surrender is an act of universal love that creates a protective force field. When you focus on service, you transcend the ego and its vulnerabilities, aligning with the flow of life itself. In positive psychology, studies show that regular gratitude practice increases happiness levels, reduces stress, and strengthens the immune system. This is not just a psychological benefit, it's a vibrational shift. A grateful heart emits a frequency of abundance and well-being that repels scarcity and fear, which are the nutrients of There was an elderly woman, Donna Rosa, who lived in a poor neighborhood and suffered from deep depression. She felt useless and constantly tormented by negative thoughts. Her doctor suggested she try some volunteer activity. Reluctantly, she began visiting a nursing home, offering her time to listen to the residents' stories. At first she felt exhausted, but over time, the connection with others and the joy of being able to help lifted her out of her own suffering. She began to feel gratitude for the small things, and the obsessive thoughts faded away. Donna Rosa realized that, by serving, she was activating an inner strength that protected her from her own darkness, becoming a source of light. Service to others and genuine gratitude were her armor against depression and feelings of worthlessness. Have you ever felt the deep joy that comes from helping someone, from an act of selfless generosity? And what would happen if you made gratitude a daily practice in your life? The truth is that the light of service and gratitude is the most powerful form of spiritual protection. It not only protects you but transforms you into a beacon, a point of light that attracts the good and repels the darkness. If life has felt like a struggle against invisible forces, if you feel drained, lost in cycles you don't understand, and desperately seek a way to strengthen and protect yourself from then the great revelation that ties all these truths together is this: your greatest obsessor is not an external entity, nor a distant spell. It is your own disconnection from your divine essence. Yes, every cycle of pain that repeats, every thought that pulls you down, every fear that paralyzes you, is a desperate invitation from your own soul to return to your center. The obsession is the visible manifestation of an invisible wound, a cry from your being for you to look inward and heal the root. Imagine you are a lighthouse, standing by the sea to guide ships. If your light is strong and steady, no storm or fog can obscure it for long. But if the lamp is dirty, or if the energy is weak, even a gentle breeze can extinguish your light. Protection against obsessors is not about building walls around the lighthouse. It's about keeping the lamp clean, the energy flowing, and the flame burning. Your spiritual journey is not a battle against evil but a journey of returning to your own light. Suffering is the warning that the lamp needs cleaning. Impermanence is the invitation not to cling to the dirt. Interconnection is the reminder that the light of others can ignite yours. The projection of reality is your power to choose the color of your light. Gratitude is the fuel to keep it burning. Vulnerability to fear is the crack you need to seal with love. And connection with your higher self is the inexhaustible source of that light. You are not being haunted by external forces randomly. You are being called to awaken to the power that resides within you. The obsessor is not the villain of your story. It is the messenger of your own shadow, the mirror reflecting what needs to be healed and True protection is the wholeness of who you are when you allow yourself to be, without fears, without denials, in full awareness of your divinity. So, take a deep breath, look at your life with new eyes. Every challenge, every repetitive pattern, every sense of heaviness is an opportunity to strengthen your light, to clean your lamp, and to reaffirm your sovereignty. You possess all the tools to protect yourself from obsessors, for the greatest protection lies in your own essence.